Ladies and gentlemen, let's get right to it. It swept the nation yesterday. It was controversy like no other controversy in the NFL world. The undefeated San Francisco 49ers beat the hell out of the Cleveland Browns on Monday Night Football. After the game, this man, who is a four-time All-Pro, a Super Bowl champ, a future Hall of Famer, a man who is polarizing no matter where you are, no matter what he says, will cause a firestorm, and that did not stop. He mentioned that Baker Mayfield disrespected him at the coin toss with the handshake thing, which turned and spun into an entire firestorm. Joining us right now, corner for the San Francisco 49ers, had a big pick on Monday night, used to be a Seattle Seahawk, one of the founding members of the Legion of Boom, Richard Sherman.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Sherman. How are you doing today? Nothing really to talk about in your life?
Right. Just a normal day, heading to the office.
Yesterday, and when I say this, I mean this. Everything you do is going to get talked about. I mean, that has started ever since you're in Seattle. You're an incredibly intelligent man who's a very good football player. Everything you do and say is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I would agree.
Okay. Baker Mayfield is also a man that everything he does and says is going to get talked about. Do you agree?
I wouldn't agree as much, but sure.
Okay, so whenever you two are brought together over a situation, the world basically exploded. And I would assume, and I'm going to get your take on it, I can't wait to hear your side. Your comments in your interview to Mike Silver was a comment that you thought was just a throwaway comment, wasn't going to be that big of a deal, and then it got blown up into this mass thing that it is. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so Mike Silver, we didn't hear the entire interview. We only got to hear your answer. How did the answer of you talking about it being a disrespectful handshake and a bit of a disrespect to the league and Bush League thing, how did that come about in the conversation?
Well, we're just talking in general, you know what I mean, and about the guy and how he's approached the league and some of the things he's done. And it was more of a conversational than interview. And he had brought up just how had I interacted with him throughout the game, and I really hadn't because when we walked up for captains, like I walk up, I shake up, give a pat on the back to just about everybody. It's kind of how I do it, and how I see it. And as I'm walking up to him, you know what I mean, he's the next person in line. He's kind of just standing back with his hands down, and I'm like, and it's happening faster than you think it's happening. It's football. Everything you always think everything's happening slow mo. So. He doesn't take a step. He doesn't look to move up. So I put my hand out, just out of courtesy, and he gives me a little petty slap on the hand, and I took it as disrespect because the way he was standing back, he wasn't walking up and approaching like everybody else. So I was like, okay, and I already felt some type of way at the beginning, so it kind of reinforced what I felt. So once we got done with that, they call it, and he just turns and runs off. I say, oh, okay. Okay, this kind of day it's going to be.
All right.
That's a super long day for him.
Okay, so Richard, I ask you this. You've been a part of a lot of captains' coin tosses, as have I. Anytime one team has 5 and the other team has 4, there's always going to be an odd man out in the handshake. He was in the middle as the odd man out, and I think he kind of felt a little awkward there as the 4 of you or the 8 of you were dapping each other up, and he was kind of caught in the middle there. So then he goes to you, you go to him, quick little dap up, keep it moving. Your words were, and it's interesting to me that you just thought it was a conversation. You didn't even know it was a real interview. And then all of a sudden things are just massively talked about in a side conversation. Is that accurate? You didn't even know it was going to be an interview? You had no idea this was going to be reported? Or did you know that you were talking to a guy that was probably going to report everywhere?
I know I'm talking to Mike Silver. You know what I mean? I don't know it's going to be reported. It wasn't like he's like, hey, what do you think of this? You know what I mean? In a true interview type. Now I know Mike reports the things. Who knows how big it's going to be. But honestly, it's really not a big deal to me. I could care less. It's a 31-3 win, and it's really a non-issue. We got a whole nother game to play.
If you had to go back to that conversation with Mike Silver, would you have said the words differently, knowing now how it all is blown out, knowing now that there was 700 cameras on everything that you and Baker do in your life, not just on the field, but in life as well?
I mean, I may have phrased it differently, but I meant what I said. You know what I mean? I did feel the disrespect. So it wasn't like I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt disrespect, and at the end of the day, that's all the story was, really.
Because
like people can say, "Oh my God, he shook your hand." Like, what? Oh my God, you were wrong. You can say whatever you want. I don't give a damn. Like
that is what a lot of people are saying. By the way, Richard, a lot of people by the way, my Twitter is always a very active place. As soon as you're involved in my Twitter, I couldn't even fathom what your Twitter is on a daily basis. The amount of comments that were coming at you, people were saying, this guy's a pathological liar. This dude is now going back on his story. This dude tried to make Baker look bad after Baker already had a terrible game. All these things were just going at you. And I think the interesting part about it is you did not do any of this on purpose. It's just kind of something that spun out of the way it is.
No, I didn't. That's why people were like, you made it such a big deal. I really didn't. I didn't bring it up in a press conference. I didn't bring it up in no huge live interview. But we were talking in the conversation, and it came up in the midst of a conversation about a number of things. And sure, it might have, like, sometimes you remember things a little differently than it happened, and that's honestly, it still motivated me the same way. So when I saw the replay, I was like, that's different than I remember it. but in real time, it hyped me up and got me ready for a ball game, and that's all I needed.
You said in your first answer that you had preconceived notions going into that. You are a chip on the shoulder type of player. Were you looking for something potentially from Baker to set you off so that you could potentially have that chip on your shoulder and a little bit more swagger going into the game?
I don't know if I was necessarily looking for it, but you're always happy to find it. You know what I mean? You're always like, oh yeah, there it is. You know what I mean? It's football. It's a rah-rah environment. So you find motivation where you can, and if you can find it in a coin toss handshake, then there you go.
Okay, so I appreciate you joining us for this whole conversation. I mean, DapGate was something that was talked about more than anything I've ever heard in my entire life yesterday. Is there anything you'd like to say to Baker Mayfield, who had to hear yesterday a lot of talk about his coin toss etiquette and his coin toss couth? Is there anything you'd like to say, like, hey, man, I apologize for the misquote there. I did see on video the dap up, although it was a bit petty. I apologize for everything that happened, or are we just moving forward?
Oh, it's going to be a bit of both. It's definitely my bad. I never want anybody to have to deal with some shit some stuff that they didn't do, And so, the questions that he's going to get and the annoying nonsense questions about some stuff that happened in a game that's already been done, sure, he'll get an apology for that. I'll probably reach out to him via text or social media to actually get a hold of him and talk to him in person. I mean, on the phone. But yeah, because that sucks. But first off, that was a great name y'all came up with, like DapGate. I was crying laughing. But yeah, he definitely deserves an apology, and that's my bad on that.